Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Great news. What about your health, brother? Yeah, it definitely is. Knowing that, the second results that came back, I don't have, a type of cancer, which is honestly unbelievable news. Doctor called me today. Yeah, it's a massive relief. Good evening, Miles and CMF, free and feather. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Congratulations on the good news. Thank you so much, Kerry. I'm still due for some sort of an MRI scan a little bit later on. But for now, I'm all in the clear. Hi, Miles. Michael, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? The crypto market, on the other hand, is looking absolutely amazing. The market is absolutely blasting through. There's so much good news that's happening, which is pushing this momentum inside the crypto space right now. Good to see you, Michael. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. Morning. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good to see everyone's tuning in one by one. Okay, what we'll do is intro, disclaimer, and essentially what we're going to be talking about tonight's live. Great to hear, Miles. Let's go, Shelly. Thank you so much. Good evening, Miles. What's up? What was the news? A lot of news to go through on tonight's live, but it's all positive news and one moronic news which we're going to go from tonight's live. But you can tell where the moronic news is coming from, the Democrats. But anyways, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. And you can tune into this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time, where I essentially share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much everything you need to know about what's happening in this world and how far are we from this digital world that we're heading towards. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And also, we do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions or any statements to make, put it down inside the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer the questions you may have. So, on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about all the positiveness that's going on right now inside the crypto sector, and also one major person resigning, which is coincidental with a company applying for something, which when we get to that news, I'll reveal what I mean. So on tonight's live, we're going to be discussing the US essentially stock market and the US crypto market, Trump's plans, some perspective news, some report news, and what's happening around the world in terms of other jurisdictions around the world, in terms of their own crypto regulations, which is also going to have a positive impact on the crypto market space, because that's also going to add liquidity to our market space. So let's go for the first news on tonight's live, which is regarding the US stock market down and the crypto markets up. So here it is. US stocks are down right now, but crypto stocks see gains, essentially aimed market essentially opening up. The US stock market opened lower today with the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq essentially slipping slightly, but some crypto-related stocks showed gains. The market's atmosphere is partly affected by President Donald Trump's recent tariff announcements. Tariff announcements by President Trump are creating market fluctuations right now, influencing stock drops, and crypto interest is beaming higher right now. This event signals potential inflation concerns from some investors. Trade policies announced by President Trump have unsettled markets, reflecting through essentially minor declines in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, and the Dow Jones essentially shows minimal percentage rise right now, indicating selective investor optimism. I can tell you that the selective investor optimism, essentially they're going towards the crypto assets. Crypto is actually being seen as a hedge against this scenario, which is amazing to see. It's still following through. The president issued letters to, as I reviewed before, 20 essentially nations. Today we got another letter towards Canada. Canada apparently is going to be seeing a 35 to 36% tariffs, outlining impeding essentially tariff rates that drove equity markets volatility. Heightened tariffs especially target copper imports from Brazil's commodities, strain economic implications, and concerns about tariffs, which analysts say will spur inflation and slow economic growth, were revived essentially this week after President Trump sent letters to these 20 nations. Now, crypto markets are benefiting from all of this with the tariff scenarios happening, benefiting from traditional markets uncertainties. So essentially, we saw Bitcoin reach new price highs. Participants are reportedly viewing Bitcoin as a hedge against economic instability and potential dollar depreciation. Bitcoin perceives safety against fiat risk is driving essentially capital flows into crypto markets. Unconfirmed data also suggests that increased transaction activity as crypto participants react to the ongoing tariff-driven equity pressures. Historical trends show an essentially inverse pattern between stock market declines and essential crypto market gains. As regulations remain vague, the interplay between tariff politics and cryptocurrency adoption continues to unfold, with market participants' reactions. Speculation of future financial and regulatory outcomes are also stringing in right now. Investors are assessing the long-term viability of crypto as inflation protection, with potential essentially government responses likely shaping the sector's regulatory landscape. We're getting so much crypto positivity right now that investors are actually jumping on the crypto bandwagon and leaving the stock market behind, because they're actually seeing essentially the crypto market as a hedge against the inflation scenarios, the tariff scenarios, or any other macroeconomic events that are going on. Crypto is being seen as a positive thing. Crypto went from a speculative essentially market space to now known as a hedge against any type of scenarios that happens in the traditional financial space. This is incredible news, honestly, that it's still continuing through. Now, the Fed is what we're going to talk about on tonight's live. The Fed's decision also keeping crypto enthusiasts on edge. Recent increases in the cryptocurrency markets have generated enthusiasm among cryptocurrency supporters. Nonetheless, this enthusiasm faces challenges from essentially economic shifts that could influence ongoing progress. Federal Reserve insights shared by essentially Austin have also sparked concerns about impeding economic strategies. Initially, predictions favored the Federal Reserve's reducing rates in September. However, these predictions have essentially been diminished since President Trump reinstated tariffs in April, complicating trade decisions. Now, the release essentially of a fresh inflation data next Tuesday and Wednesday may further shake up the markets. We're going to get more essentially tariff news coming up Tuesday and Wednesday next week starting, which means, again, if crypto is seen as a hedge against inflation, expect the crypto markets to go up Tuesday and Wednesday if once again they're seen as a hedge against traditional financial assets. Also, the Chicago Fed's president highlighted how these new tariffs announced by President Trump are negatively affecting inflation forecasts, diverting essentially attention from potential interest rates cuts, has essentially candid the words could prove dispelling to essentially Trump. Now, recently explained that although the lifted essentially tariffs had previously guided the Fed towards considering rate reductions, the reintroduction of essentially tariffs shifted this focus. Starting essentially August 1st, tariffs will include a 35% tariff on Canada's goods and 50% tax on Brazilian items, alongside essentially reinstated rates from April, affecting around 20 essentially other countries, which I've revealed in the past live shows the past 2 days. Jerome Powell's chairman of the Fed has also essentially the Fed is prepared to monitor economic developments closely, essentially maintaining that the current rates are not overly essentially stringent. And despite essentially steady rates since December, uncertainty persists regarding the direction of the inflation. Advocating early for rate cuts essentially now seems to recess these positions. Although indicators from Waller's essentially favor rates diminish, Bowman's essentially stance is essentially intermediate. Now, they also acknowledge the complexities, noting that additional variables make price forecasts challenging. Adding factors to the mix complicates answering essentially if prices will rise or not, or inflation reports indicate steady growth. The employment landscape has regained essentially stable, less dramatic than anticipated. New tariffs will enforce a 20% effective duty, urging some to reconsider rate cuts. Upcoming essentially meetings suggest a 95.3% chance of no rate changes. There is also a 61% speculation of a rate reduction in September. And amidst all these challenges, there is a rising debate within the Fed regarding the appropriate timing for interest rate adjustments to be happening. As market conditions essentially evolve, stakeholders remain attentive to policy shifts impacting financial landscapes worldwide. We all know that essentially we could be possibly having some sort of rate cuts essentially this month is what's essentially being considered. It's not guaranteed in any sort of way to have rate cuts this month at all. Rate cuts, they're saying, suggesting it could be September, but with the news that the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, may be on the sign of resigning from his position, then we could be expecting rate cuts this month. You could say there's much more higher chance of happening. But as I said previously, rate cuts are just a cherry on top because what we need inside the crypto space, even as essentially Brad Garlinghouse said on an interview on CNBC, that we need to have regulations inside the crypto space. The crypto space wants to be regulated, not to stay in a gray area anymore. The faster we get regulated, the faster we can just essentially fly to the moon, you could say, inside the crypto space. Now, Tether is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about Tether, let's go inside the comment section first, and then move straight into the Tether news. So let's see what's happening inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. Scott, hello, Miles, aka my mentor and my CMF family members. Let's go, Scott. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? I love my family. Let's go, Scott. XRP is up, loving it. Let's go. How's Miles doing? John, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. SB, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles. Great day for crypto. Can I get your thoughts on Flare token? Yes, you can, Artistic. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? My thoughts on Flare token is that it's a promising project. It could have a very bright future ahead of itself, but the key word here is it could. It's not guaranteed in any sort of way, in my opinion. What I would say is preferably, if you know, the crypto projects everybody should be focused on right now, especially knowing that this is the month of regulations, with the crypto week of regulations coming up and the report from the White House and so on, that you preferably want to stay in the range of XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, even Cardano, you could say AVAX. This is the category you want to stay in. Going beyond this category makes no sense. So this is the category you want to stay in. But Flare token is a legitimate project, is what I would say. But I wouldn't say it's a must-have project in my portfolio. It could do very well for itself. Potentially, it could do very well for itself in the long term. But the category I would preferably like to stay in is XRP, XLM, XDC, essentially HBAR, Cardano, and AVAX. So I want to go beyond these crypto projects to add to my portfolio. But Flare token is a legitimate project, in my opinion. It could have a very bright future ahead of itself, and so on. So yeah, that's what I would say on this thing. Good to see you as well. Hello, Miles is here. Crackling is back again. Is my voice crackling right now? Hello, Miles. Thank you for letting me know that, Shelly. Lena, hello, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Andrew says, hey, Miles, I really believe XRP can hit double digits. Do you think we can do it before 2026? Do I think that XRP can hit double digits before 2026? Hell yes. It should do, honestly, because it only depends on, essentially, that we get regulations through, the case drops. XRP always needed 3 green lights. If it gets these 3 green lights, as I said previously, anything's possible. First green light essentially is the case going away. Second green light essentially is that we get the regulations and process. The third green light is pretty much utility. Now, let's see where we're at. Let's go, Miles and CMF. Scott, let's go. Miles, what's your opinion about a bag of 10,000 XRP? Brilliant. Honestly, if anybody's holding 10,000 XRP, your future looks incredibly bright. Let's go XLM, XDC, ACH, HBAR, and Beam. Let's go, Scott. And those are also good as well. ACH is a very good project as well. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bull XRP, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I'm not happy. I'm happy. The link. I'm happy that I'm able to meet up with the live today. Let's go. Crackling. Yep. Thank you. I have those. I was just curious about it. No problem. Artistic anytime. The audio is not clear, Mouse. Yes, it's not great. Please, no major dump. We have to see how the market plays out. The audio is not great. I don't know why the audio is like this. I'll be honest. I don't know why the audio is like this. Can everybody hear me properly? Is it crackling really bad? Sorry, I was just pressing the buttons on the fan. It is extremely hot right now in London. Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? You haven't said a lot about other thoughts. Cardano's founder is doing, great work. I'll be honest. Cardano's founder has been doing great work. I'll be honest. Also, essentially, with Cardano and Ripple coming together with XRP and so on, I think that's a good play for Cardano, and therefore it will have a good future. Yes, I can hear. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. 5 out of 5 here. Yes, your lips aren't in sync with the words, a little crackly to some degree. Okay, so it's 50-50 regarding the sound. Okay, well, I hope it gets better as the live goes on. Otherwise, we will have to restart the live and pull it back up. Let's see. Chainlink is also a great project as well. It could have a very bright future ahead of itself. Now, there's a lot of crypto projects that can honestly have a very bright future ahead of themselves. Now, Tether. Interestingly enough, Tether is going to be, it's Restream, yeah, I know. Tether is going to disconnect USDT on 5 blockchains to refocus their resources right now. Okay, seems a fraction better now. Okay, that's good. So Tether is going to discontinue essentially USDT on 5 blockchains. So here it is. Tether is going to disconnect itself essentially for USDT on 5 legacy blockchains starting September 1st. The company announced today that the move affects users on OmniLayer, Bitcoin Cash SLP, Consumer, EOS, and now Volta and Algorand. Sunsetting support for these legacy chains allows us to focus on platforms that offer greater scalability, developer activity, and community engagements, said the CEO of Tether. Tether's sunsetting essential support for these particular blockchains has been in the works for some time. In August 2023, the company announced it will no longer be issuing USDT on OmniLayer, Consumer, and Bitcoin and Cash SLP. And in June 2024, Tether even halted minting essentially on EOS and Algorand. Now, USDT is the largest stablecoin in circulation with a market capitalization of around $139.4 billion, according to Cointelegraph's indexes. Now, a review of USDT's essentially balances across the affected blockchains shows that the OmniLayer holds essentially net circulation of 82.9 million USDT, while other networks have a smaller participation like Bitcoin Cash SLP with 986,000 essentially plus, Consumer with 240,000, EOS with 4.2 million, and Algorand with 841,000 essentially plus USDT. Our users should experience no disruption given Tether made a decision to stop offering Tether on Algorand. A representative essentially for Algorand's foundation told Cointelegraph at the time they gave customers 1 year to complete redemptions. In the same year, we've only seen our stablecoin volumes grow. According to essentially data from Token Terminal, Algorand's revenue essentially amounted to 42,300 over the past 30 days. Blockchain companies often make money through transaction fees. Tether said essentially that the discontinuous for the essentially least the OmniLayer was due to the lack of USDT usage on the network. USDT has decided to move away from 5 networks because they don't see any sort of volume coming in from those particular networks. Makes sense, but interesting timing to disconnect from those 5 projects now, or the announcements of now. Now, moving on essentially from Tether to BlackRock news. BlackRock's IBIT is on fire right now. It becomes the fastest ever fund to achieve $80 billion of assets under management, a new record you could even say for any type of ETF. With the price of Bitcoin smashing essentially all-time new highs over the last 2 days, BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF has made history. The iShares Bitcoin Trust IBIT has become the fastest fund ever to surpass $80 billion in assets under management. BlackRock's IBIT has pulled off something no other ETF has done so far. The ETF has officially essentially crossed the $80 billion in assets, making it the fastest ETF in history to hit the milestone. It took iShares Bitcoin's Trust just 374 days, which is approximately 5 times faster than the previous record holder, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, the ticker, which took 1,814 trading days to reach $80 billion in assets under management. IBIT blew through the $80 billion mark last night, fastest ETF to get there in 374 days, about 5 times faster than the previous record holder held by essentially Vanguard, which is incredible. This announcement essentially was made by Eric from Bloomberg, the ETF specialist analyst. IBIT is now the 21st biggest ETF globally by assets, a tremendous essentially achievement for an ETF that debuted essentially on Wall Street just over a year ago. The firm's holdings of 706,000 essentially 8 Bitcoins make it the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin, ahead of crypto exchange giant Binance and Michael Saylor's essentially strategy. The largest holder of Bitcoin is still presumed to be Bitcoin's essentially creator, obviously Satoshi Nakamoto, Now, estimates that addresses linked to Satoshi Nakamoto hold roughly $1.1 million and 1.1 million Bitcoin, accumulating essentially to around 5.2% of Bitcoin's 21 million supply. Meanwhile, the dozen spot Bitcoin ETFs locked in over $1.17 billion in inflows on Thursday, essentially notching out their second highest single day of totals since launch as institutional money flooded into the cryptocurrency space. Total assets, all of the spot Bitcoin ETFs crossed $140 billion for the first time as well. They took in over essentially $1 billion just last night, but it was really the big move up in the price that is doing the most in the heavy lifting here right now. Bitcoin's ETF smashed records. It is the fastest growing ETF in pretty much history when it comes towards the market space. That is incredible, however way you look at it. Now, moving on from the massive announcement from BlackRock, essentially regarding their Bitcoin ETF, or Eric's massive announcement of the data of BlackRock, to Coinbase. But before we talk about Coinbase, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Coinbase news. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section first. We were here. It's a fraction better now. It's better now. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Happy Friday for sure. Let's go, Ray. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? I spoke to you soon, lol. Hello, Miles and CMF. Lottie, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Now, Coinbase. Coinbase is going to be suing the governor of Oregon over cryptocurrency regulatory records. So it's not just Senator Elizabeth Warren, for some odd reason, hates the idea of cryptocurrencies. It's also the governor of Oregon. So Coinbase has initiated legal action against Oregon's governor, Tina, seeking the disclosure of public records tied to a rapid change in the state's cryptocurrency regulations in April 2025. This policy adjustment categorizes 31 digital assets traded on Coinbase's platforms as security without public involvement. So Oregon's governor one day decided to wake up and scrap the idea of creating some sort of a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency reserve for their American state, like the other American states like Texas and Ohio and Idaho and so on, and they decided to instead sue Coinbase and essentially label 31 cryptocurrencies as some sort of securities. And Coinbase wants to know why and how they have essentially come to this decision and why they have done it without any sort of public involvement. Why is this fast-tracked? This case spotlights essentially the transparency challenges in the state crypto regulations and affects hundreds of essentially of thousands in Oregon. Now, legal and market dynamics are crucial as similar regulatory essentially issues arise nationwide. Coinbase has filed a lawsuit against Oregon's governor demanding public access to records about the state's policy shift on cryptocurrency regulations. This shift applied without prior essentially public discussions now considers 31 digital assets on Coinbase as securities. Even though we don't have Mr. Gary Gensler in the building as the essentially chairman of the SEC, who considered everything inside of crypto space as security, he's gone long time. But we have somebody in Oregon, a governor of Oregon, who just essentially is picking up where Gary Gensler left off and suing Coinbase. Now, changes resulting from this policy include constraints on cryptocurrency trading in Oregon without regulatory clarity or participation, decision-making processes. Sunlight essentially is the best essentially of transparency, is hallmark of good governance, said Ryan, the vice president of litigations at Coinbase, emphasizing the need for essentially a need for transparency in the governance when it comes to cryptocurrencies. While Oregon State Attorney General Dan Rayfield initiated legal action claiming that the trading of specific digital assets constitutes as unregulated security transactions, Coinbase's chief legal officer Paul maintains confidence in their defense, labeling the case as meritless. I agree 100%. Research also suggests that the regulatory clarity could stabilize market conditions, especially if pending federal legislation essentially aligns and the state policies. History has shown that transparent governance can reinforce market confidence and foster innovation inside the crypto sector. What's interesting about this entire story is that the SEC doesn't see crypto assets in itself as a security, but a state in America, a governor in that particular state of Oregon, sees it as a security. Bit odd. When the SEC doesn't see it as a security, when the CFTC doesn't see it as a security, a governor in Oregon does and decides to sue Coinbase and label 31 crypto assets as securities. I bet you any money there will probably be a link in some sort of way between the Oregon essentially governor, Tina, and Senator Elizabeth Warren. There'll be some sort of a link there. Because nobody wakes up one day and decides to ruin their own state for no apparent reason. Now, moving on from that to also, I just want to take 1 second just to say thank you so much to everybody who's watching this live right now, who has liked and retweeted this live and put a comment outside the live if you watch us on X. Also, thanks so much to everyone who's watching on YouTube right now, who's also liked the live and put a comment outside of Sajid on YouTube as well. If you haven't done that, CMF members, take 5 seconds to like and retweet the live. Now, Senator Cynthia Luminis is what we're going to be talking about next. Senator Cynthia Luminis, essentially Congress's most vocal advocate for digital asset innovation, has proposed a new crypto tax law to bring in essentially an end the abuse when it comes to tax policies towards cryptocurrency individuals and cryptocurrency companies. In an interview, Senator Luminis essentially retweeted that the existing tax system is unfairly treats digital assets relative to traditional financial instruments right now. She also posted, "My new crypto tax law will end the tax methods and provide a level, essentially playing field for digital assets." The bill calls for various significant amendments. First, it provides a 300 essentially de minimis exemption for small crypto transactions up to $5,000 annually. This would enable essentially users to make routine purchases such as coffee or groceries without the burdening essentially them with capital gains tax. So people can use their cryptocurrencies in the United States for groceries, for example, and not get taxed on cryptocurrencies. Second, the legislation essentially proclaims that double taxation on mining and staking rewards. The new plan will tax the users only once they sell their rewards, not when they are received. So if you are essentially staking your cryptocurrencies inside the United States, you don't get taxed, but the moment essentially you take it out of staking, you'll get a small little tax. Other reforms include more explicit tax regulations for lending, charitable contributions, and wash sales, synchronizing essentially assets such as stocks. These changes will make digital assets much more easier essentially and more secure to utilize and provide IRS essentially with the uniform framework they need. The legislation is also one of a series of initiatives by lawmakers aimed the Crypto Week in Congress, which is coming up, during which the House and the Senate are considering bills to help clarify and enhance the U.S. in terms of becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies. As reported, the House of Republicans are lining up for votes on several crypto-related bills, such as the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the CBDC Act that we talked about. A July 16th hearing is also being planned to focus on, especially on crypto taxation policies, and CoinDesk has reported on that matter. With that tourism essentially momentum building and the support increasing in Crypto Week, essentially, Senator Luminis' tax bill has the potential to be a landmark moment towards making essentially crypto more accessible, simpler, and fairer for millions of Americans. The Crypto Week is going to be starting essentially 14th, essentially, as I said, 14th of this month. The crypto tax essentially regulation is going to be on the 16th of this month. And somewhere down the line this month, we're going to have the crypto report from the White House. A lot of crypto news and crypto legislations. Honestly, this month is, if this month works out the way we want it to work out inside the crypto space, it's going to be an absolute blast for the crypto space. Now, moving on from that to Trump. Before we talk about Trump news, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you have any questions or statements to make, put it down inside the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. So let's see where we were at inside the comment section. We were here. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone is good and well. Bit late, but busy. What a good day in crypto excitement. Hold tight. Facts. One love. Let's go. Good to see you as well. Now, Trump Jr. has backed the firm expands into altcoins for treasury holdings. Now, I recently did essentially reveal that the Trump essentially Liberty Financial Project or the Trump Media Project and so on, they've decided to apply for altcoins to be added to their portfolio. Now we got to a stage where it's been approved by their own board members. So here it is. The NASDAQ-listed marketing tech firm, which previously focused on Bitcoin only, will now include Ethereum XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, Litecoin, and USDC in its treasury holdings. The board of directors approved the expanded asset list, signaling a shift towards diversified crypto reserves. The move essentially allows the company to hold up to 90% of its liquid assets and digital currencies and no longer limited only to Bitcoin. A lot of people were surprised that the Trump essentially organization was only holding Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin maxis were excited about that because they said everything else is trash inside the crypto space and only Bitcoin matters. But as time has progressed, the Trump family has realized that expanding their portfolio and holding essentially a basket of cryptocurrencies, especially American cryptocurrencies, makes 10 times more sense. The essentially thumbs up is also making headlines due to his shareholder profile. Donald Trump's junior son of the US President Trump reportedly holds 350,000 shares in the company, a stake valued at around $4 million. His involvement also adds a layer to the Trump family's growing interest in corporate crypto treasuries. Earlier this year, Eric Trump also joined the advisory board of Japan's Metaplanet, a firm essentially known for aggressively acquiring Bitcoin in its balance sheets. This development follows a broader trend of businesses adapting altcoins like Ethereum and XRP as a part of their long-term financial strategies, joining Bitcoin in the push to integrate crypto into corporate reserves. Keywords there: XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin, all in the same category as the corporate chosen projects. Now, moving on essentially from a final, the approval that the Trump family, essentially the board members, gave to Trump's family to add this massive portfolio is incredible, honestly. It's essentially another positive news for those particular altcoins and positive news for the crypto space, because whatever the Trump family does, the rest of the world does tend to follow and listen and watch. Now, Democrats, the number one hated parliamentary group in the US government, Democrats, have decided to create an anti-crypto week. So as the Republicans are trying to bring in innovation inside the United States, trying to make the US the capital of cryptocurrencies, the capital of AI, essentially expand the US market worldwide, take the rankings as number one place as we head into a digital asset world, the Democrats have decided to once again bring down the US. So we have the Crypto Week of legislations from the Republican Party for innovation, and we have now the Anti-Crypto Week from the Democratic Party. I said this before, and I'll say it again, and I stand by it. Why is there even a Democratic Party inside the United States? Because all they do is stand against the American people. Democrats led by Rep. essentially Maxine Waters and Rep. Stephen Lynch are set to start the Anti-Crypto Week to block the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the CBDC Anti-Bill Act. Their concern is that the bills will pave the way for what they call Trump's crypto corruption. Big words from Democrats, because I can guarantee you, if you look at all the portfolios from those Democrats, those big names in the Democratic sector, nothing will add up. As I've said previously, Elizabeth Warren's portfolio does not add up to her wages. Anybody from essentially Democratic sector, honestly, it makes zero sense to me that why the Democrats hate the American people so much. It makes zero sense to me. Why the Democratic, essentially, people, the governors or the senators or so on, hate the American people so much. Even though they're chosen to lead the American people, to make their lives better, safer, cheaper. But they just hate the American people. I don't know what's wrong with the Democratic Party. Maxine Waters, the top Democrat on the House of Financial Services Committee and ranking member of the subcommittee on digital assets, Stephen Lynch, have announced that the rally will begin next week. As we have the pro-crypto week for legislations, we're also going to be having the anti-crypto legislation week. This comes after Republicans announced a crypto week starting essentially on July 14th. The two lawmakers essentially will lead Democrats in opposition to Republicans. Efforts to essentially jam through what they call the House three dangerous pieces of crypto legislations. According to Maxine, the bill lacks the urgently needed consumer protections and national security guardrails. According to them, the Republican-led Clarity Act and the Senate's Genius Act will expose our financial stability, national security, and consumer protections to greater risk. Since the year began, essentially, Trump has pushed initiatives that support the crypto industry. From the leaders who he has essentially chosen to support, shown by the public essentially rooting for these types of assets. He has also been involved in the industry by launching companies and crypto coins. Maxine Waters says that the bill would make Congress complicit in Trump's essentially unprecedented crypto scams. She continued that Trump's goal is to personally enrich himself, his entire family, and the billionaires inside the cabinet at the cost of investors. I'm sorry, Trump's plan is to make himself and his entire family billionaires. Trump is a billionaire. Honestly, I don't know what goes on in a Democrat's mind, but I'm guessing nothing. Absolutely nothing. They must have zero brain cells. Or as I like to say it, it's like a goldfish. In addition to these bills, it serves as a brazen essentially stamp of approval for a blatant abuse of power. According to reports, Trump has amassed $1.2 billion from the industries. Maxine Waters said that just days after passing one of the most enriched billionaire giveaways in American history and ripping basic needs away from American families, lies. Every time a Democratic politician opens their mouth, they're lying straight through to everyone. Republicans are in it again. They are doubling down for fast-tracking a dangerous package of crypto legislations through Congress. Dems also accuse Republicans of being too cowardly to stand up to President, and Congressman Lynch said, "My Republican colleagues are eager to continue doing the bidding for the crypto industry while conveniently ignoring the vulnerabilities and opportunities for abuse that exist inside the crypto sector." Just want to point this out, that essentially Ripple and Coinbase did do a lot of funding for the Republican Party regarding their ad campaigns, hence why we had a very clean sweep of Republicans when President Trump was chosen as the United States president. To that end, Democrats affirmed that they are not afraid and will spend this week reminding the public of the true cost of this corruption. Our message is clear. We will not allow the financial system to become a vehicle for self-dealing, lawlessness, and abuse of power. The stakes for consumers, investors, and our democracy could not be higher. What an absolute load of bollocks. Stephen Lynch says the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act will shackle the US government research while giving China another opportunity to capitalize on new technology. This is because of crypto products' volatile and risky nature and the lack of investor protections. Meanwhile, China is creating an international operations center in Shanghai for digital yuan's the essentially digital yuan. China envisions a multipolar currency system where multiple currencies support the global economy. China's central bank of Chief Pan said. I just want to point this out again. It feels like Maxine Waters is out of the loop, as she always is, because she's a Democratic politician. They're all out of the loop. The anti-CBDC bill does not mean that America is not allowed to create CBDCs at all. It actually basically states that the Fed is not allowed to essentially research or produce a CBDC. It does leave room for error for anybody else to come in and create CBDCs for the United States. Waters essentially pointed out that Republicans saying the same Republicans who rallies against the government-backed digital dollar in the name of freedom are now rushing to hand over their keys to America's financial future to Trump's illegal and corrupt crypto empire. I also just want to point this out. The thing that the Democratic Party is essentially scared of is not because essentially the Democratic Party cares about the public's safety or privacy. The Democratic Party couldn't care less. They're politicians. Politicians don't care about people's privacy or safety. All they care about is their own essentially wallets. Going into a digital world, it's going to get very difficult for the Democratic Party to be able to breathe. And that's what they're scared of. The Democratic Party's under-the-table donations are going to come to an end under essentially Trump's administration. The faster America heads towards a digital world, the faster the Democratic Party won't be able to breathe, because they won't be able to receive these under-the-table donations, or how essentially Elizabeth Warren's essentially portfolio doesn't add up to her wages, or any other Democratic, when they look at their portfolio of stocks, it doesn't add up to their wages in any sort of way. All the insider information they get, all the under-the-table deals they get, all of it will come to a halt, because now we live in a digital world. And that means that they could also be monitored the same way the retail section could be monitored. And that's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid or essentially coming out and saying that we care about the people's privacy. They couldn't care less about your privacy. They care about their own privacy. And that's what they're scared of. Trump's administration being able to track their every step. On March 6, Republicans Representatives Tom Hemmer proposed the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. This bill aims to stop the Federal Reserve, the U.S. central bank, from issuing CBDC, which leaves room for error for somebody else to step in and create the CBDC. The House Committee on Financial Services said that the Blockchain Association, the Digital Chamber of Commerce, and a number of banking lobbies are among the groups to back the bill. Now, moving on to China. But before we go to the Chinese news, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's going on inside the comment section, and we go straight into the Shanghai news. So let's see where we're at. We were at here. The Dems definitely doing too much. Make it make sense, or facts. Let's go right. Absolutely facts. Miles and my family know I'm a registered Democrat, a bit as centrist. I can't understand why they are trying to affect my ability to create life-changing money for my family. I do not understand, especially why an anti-crypto week is important. I agree with you, Scott, 100%. I wonder how many Democrats actually own crypto and have made money from crypto. Facts. Do you think their actions will have any substantial effect on the current positive crypto movements? No, I don't think it will. I genuinely don't think the anti-crypto week is going to have any sort of negative effects on the crypto space. It shouldn't do. The same way when Maxine Waters was standing with a placard going against Elon Musk and essentially the Doge campaign, and that didn't work because essentially Doge did close down everything that Maxine Waters was standing up for. That's only because she was getting paid from those campaigns. But the same way that didn't work with her standing in the rain with a placard looking like a loser, that didn't work. So I don't think the crypto anti-week is going to work. But what she's going to get essentially is scare people from entering the crypto space. Not institutions, because institutions are more intelligent than Maxine Waters. But what she's going to achieve is essentially people who are Democrats inside the United States, who aren't inside the crypto space. They'll look at Maxine Waters' campaign of anti-crypto week and might stand with her and not enter the crypto section. So the only people that are going to essentially fall behind on this anti-crypto week campaign are people that essentially might be in the Democratic section and support their ideologies. But someone like Scott doesn't support their ideologies, even though he is a registered Democrat. He doesn't support their ideologies in any sort of a way. But there might be some people inside the Democratic, essentially retail section that, will see Maxine Waters' anti-campaign for crypto and say, maybe crypto is a bad idea for me to enter into. So what she's doing is ruining, once again, retail section lives. That's all she's doing. She's just ruining people that are inside the retail section that support the Democratic Party might believe her crap. So it shouldn't really affect the crypto market in any sort of way, in a negative way. But, a lot of retail people who are Democrats, who don't understand what cryptocurrencies, will look at Maxine Waters' campaign and try to stay out of the crypto section. So those people will be doomed in CBDCs. Does XRP go to $20 anytime soon, Scott? Consider variable change. Anything's possible once those regulations get passed. Let's go, Scott. Does XLM, XDC, and HBAR go above $5 anytime soon? I do believe so, yes. Now, Shanghai. Shanghai is considering a stablecoin, essentially stablecoins crypto ban shift. So it looks like China's taking a page out of the American playbook and essentially putting aside the whole, anger, you could say, also the ban they have towards cryptocurrencies, because they feel like the United States is actually aiming for the capital of cryptocurrencies. And with the 3 regulations that are about to be passed inside the United States, with the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and the Anti-CBDC Act, China feels like it's about to be left behind. So China's thinking about removing the ban on CBDCs. Shanghai's essentially SASAC, led by essentially He Kuang, signals a shift in approach to stablecoins during a recent meeting highlighting potential yuan-backed solutions in China's ongoing crypto ban discussions. If China lifts their ban on CBDs, essentially if China lifts their ban on stablecoins, the amount of liquidity that's going to be entering the crypto market space is going to be crazy. Already, we get liquidity coming in from the Chinese market space, even though there's a ban on cryptocurrencies and stablecoins and so on, and Bitcoin mining. Already, we get liquidity coming in from China. But if the ban is lifted, then a lot of institutions are going to be able to freely enter the crypto space. So the amount of liquidity that will be entering in from China will be crazy. He Kuang's director of Shanghai's SASC highlighted the need for enhanced research into digital currencies. Essentially, they saw participation from government and industry stakeholders signaling a shift towards stablecoins. And Ant Group and JD.com are advocating for a yuan-backed stablecoin, emphasizing an alternative to US dollar-linked stablecoins like USDC and USDT or RLUSD. This illustrates corporate urgency in developing digital currency solutions. Businesses and regulators could see shifts affecting policies and digital currencies landscapes. However, foreign stablecoins remain essentially off limits, with an emphasis on domestic focus. We need to have greater sensitivity to emerging technologies and enhance research in digital currencies. He Qing's director, Shanghai State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission, said. SASC's director, He Kwong, also urges for more research in emerging technologies, potential policy changes that could significantly affect Chinese's economic strategies and corporate positions towards competing essentially internationally. Now, the regulatory landscape in China may evolve, potentially impacting financial sectors. Historical shifts in China's financial policies resulted in broader implications nationwide, often seen previously in the digital yuan's early trials. If China opens their doors, lifts the crypto ban, honestly, the amount of liquidity that will be entering the crypto market space will be absolutely ballistic. Now, the news that's going around is that Jerome Powell is thinking about resigning. Now, a while ago, we said there are two outcomes for Jerome Powell. It's either essentially he leaves or they kick him out through the Supreme Court in some sort of a way. But it does seem like he's decided to stand up and leave by himself. I don't think he's, essentially standing up peacefully, leaving by himself. I think he's more on the lines of kicking and screaming, being removed from his position. Either way, we couldn't care less. The good thing is he's about to be resigning. So the financial markets have been sent into a real essential speculation following the Federal Reserve's consistent reluctance to cut interest rates, a decision that has particularly essentially irked President Trump. Despite his persistent calls for lowering rates, Trump essentially announced a spike in tariffs from August 1st, compounding to the present economic scenarios and complexities. Speculation is rife regarding Jerome Powell's potential resigning as a chairman, essentially, of the Federal Reserve, a rumor that has already sent Bitcoin soaring to remarkable price points of $118,000 and the rest of the crypto space spiking up as well because of the speculation that Jerome Powell is about to resign, because we have had some sort of a letter or note or filing from the essentially chairman from the Fed that he is thinking actually about resigning, that he thinks is the perfect time to actually resign. The anticipation of a successor more inclined to clash interest rates has buoyed the markets. Historically, similar essentially whispers have been dispelled, but recent proclamations from the Federal Housing Finance Agency have led essentially creditors to these current essentially claims. The FHFA head, William, issued a statement seen by many as a harboring essential positive change, further enthusiasm for the crypto market space. The reports of Jerome Powell considering resignation are encouraging to me. I believe this could be the right choice for America and potentially rejuvenating the economy. With Bitcoin's value sustaining itself above $118,000, the FHFA's official statement is on hand for skeptics needing confirmation. How the markets will gauge essentially of this movement, of this priority, there's discussions of a potential new chair, assuming Powell's departure becomes critical discussions. The potential resignation of Jerome Powell brings the issue of the Federal Reserve's independence into sharp focus. If Powell steps down, the challenge will essentially be how the Fed, under Trump's leadership, can maintain its autonomy. Additionally, the markets stand at a crossroads, pondering the repercussions of essentially the Fed's policies are viewed as politically influenced. The possibility of interest rate cuts against the backdrop of inflation, sparked essentially by new tariffs, is a scenario thought with implications for financial ecosystems. And an official statement from the Federal Reserve is on the horizon. Considering the substantial essentially market impacts, these developments are wild. Now, past remarks by the Treasury Secretary that Trump merely shares his opinions, the Fed remains independent and will decide on rates independently, continue to echo, aiming to soothe the market volatility. Bitcoin's price reaction underscores the market sensitivity to leadership changes in the Fed, potential for policy shifts and remains if Powell exits, highlighting essentially the Fed's influence on financial stability. Tariff hikes pose an inflation risk, which could entail complex monetary policy responses. The global economic landscape stands at a pivotal moment. The interplay between essentially political pressures and monetary policies is poised to dedicate to the course of financial markets in the days ahead. Investors and policymakers alike are keeping a keen eye on developments, underscoring that shifts a healing of Federal Reserves could have far-reaching consequences. So, Jerome Powell might actually be considering resigning. I think it's something to do with the $2.5 billion essentially management of money that's been going on in the Fed, the $2.5 billion. That, I think, has put a lot of pressure on Jerome Powell, excluding the pressure that's already on him from Trump. Just want to say one essentially thing, which once I came across the news regarding Jerome Powell, essentially resignation of a possible outcome that it could happen, something came to mind. The OCC, essentially, I revealed yesterday's live. On yesterday's live, I revealed that the OCC has essentially became pro-crypto because now they have a new leader who is extremely pro-crypto and is going to be working with the banks to essentially for the accessibility of cryptocurrency companies and so on. The SEC is pro-crypto. The CFTC is pro-crypto. The OCC is pro-crypto. The FDIC is pro-crypto. It just left the Fed to become pro-crypto. Also want to point out another thing. About a few days back, what was a major news inside the crypto space? Ripple applying for a banking license. But more importantly, Ripple applying for a Fed account, a Fed master account, which means that XRP or essentially RLUSD could become a part of the Fed. So a few days back, Ripple applies for a banking license and a Fed account. A few days forward, Jerome Powell's news of resignation happening. We know for a fact Jerome Powell hates cryptocurrencies, even though he's made 2 positive speeches about cryptocurrencies in his entire lifetime. We know for a fact that Jerome Powell hates cryptocurrencies and hates Trump. 2 days before his announcement that came out today that he might be resigning is when Ripple applied essentially to enter the Fed and a banking license. It's an interesting coincidence, is what I would say. And keeping in fact that the SEC is pro-crypto, CFTC pro-crypto, OCC now pro-crypto, FDIC pro-crypto. It just left the Fed. 2-3 days before that, Ripple applies for a Fed account. 2-3 days forward, Jerome Powell might be resigning. Coincidence or coordinated, or just odd timing? Now, on the topic of the SEC, Grayscale is what we talk about next. But before we talk about Grayscale, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's going on in there, and then we go straight into the next news, which is regarding Grayscale. Mouse, you are correct. I am a crypto man, 100%. Thanks for saying that publicly. Let's go, Scott. Mouse, how can I not be a crypto man? Where you're my mentor? Let's go, Scott. Crypto Mouse, let's go, Scott. Share the live, let's go, Scott. Your home is so beautiful, such as your accent. Furious, thank you so much for the kind words. This is not my home. This is a filter. This is Restream at the top. And thank you regarding my accent. Now, Grayscale. Grayscale challenges the SEC. As I said previously, if the SEC doesn't approve Grayscale's basket of ETFs, or Grayscale's ETF in general, Grayscale tends to sue. And when they sue, they win. Now, the issue is the SEC can't be seen as anti-crypto because they're pro-crypto. And Grayscale is putting the pressure on them right now. Grayscale challenges the SEC's delay on digital large cap fund ETF listing, so the basket of cryptocurrencies that Grayscale wanted to pass. Cointelegraph reports that Grayscale's attorneys have filed a formal complaint against the SEC today. The complaint addresses essentially the regulator's decision to halt the digital large cap fund ETF listing, essentially despite initial approval. The SEC's decision of trading and markets approved by the ETF proposal under delegated authority. However, the SEC's Office of Secretary immediately placed the discussions under review. Grayscale's legal team argues that this violates their strategy, essentially their approval deadlines set by the Federal Reserve's regulations. The attorneys state that the under Section 19B2D delayed decisions result in automatic approval. The large digital cap fund manages $755 million in crypto assets across Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. The regulatory standoff affects thousands of current investors waiting for enhanced liquidity. CoinDesk confirmed that the fund would become the largest multi-token digital asset ETF globally. The product tracks the CoinDesk 5 index, with Bitcoin comprising 80% of the holdings. We previously essentially reported that BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin ETF achieved record status as the institutional demand for crypto exposure grows substantially. Bloomberg ETF analysts also assigned 95% approval odds to multi-asset crypto ETFs before the regulatory review even began. The delay prevents retail investors from accessing essentially diversified crypto exposure through traditional brokerage accounts. Investment firms view this as a test case for future altcoin ETF credentials and approvals. Decrypt noted that Grayscale called the discussion unexpected given the changing regulatory landscape. The firm previously essentially won a court battle that led to the Bitcoin ETF approval back in January, which is true. The reason we had a Bitcoin ETF is because Grayscale sues and wins. They don't give up. The regulatory pause reflects a broader tension over crypto, asset classification, and policies. Industry observers expect the SEC to establish a formal listing standard for digital asset ETFs. Current SEC Chairman Paul Atkins has advocated for transparent regulatory frameworks over enforcement-based oversight. That's why the SEC cannot be seen as anti-crypto, and they have to pass the Grayscale, essentially, ETF. By Grayscale essentially making a formal complaint, it just means that Grayscale is about to get their ETF fully approved. Multi-asset managers, including Bitwise, Franklin Templeton, Hashdex, await similar decisions on crypto basket fund applications. The Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund conversion deadline falls on July 31st, 2025. Analysts believe the SEC may approve multiple products simultaneously under unified standards. The SEC has no choice but to approve these ETFs. Pushing deadlines, they can do so. But when the deadline comes to a final notice, the SEC has no choice but to approve these ETFs. The reason why I say the SEC has no choice but to approve it is because the SEC wants to be seen as pro-crypto. And if they reject an ETF, for example, if they reject an XRP, HBOR, Cardano, AVAX, Solana ETF in any sort of a way, they have to come up with a pretty damn good reason of why they rejected it, fully knowing that they have to be pro-crypto now because they pretty much have no choice due to the pressure they're getting from Trump administration to become pro-crypto. So they have to come up with a pretty damn reason of why they can't approve it. Gary Gensler couldn't come up with a reason. That's why he lost against Grayscale. And that's why we had a Bitcoin ETF in January 2024. So are they going to come up with a pretty damn good reason now? No. If they couldn't come up with it then when they hate the cryptocurrencies, they definitely can't come up with it now when they're pro-cryptocurrencies. Crypto Slate reports that the commissioners can request reviews of delegated authority discussions at any time. The review process lacks defined timelines, creating uncertainty for pending applications. Traditional financial institutions monitor these developments as they consider essentially expanding crypto investment offerings. The outcomes could determine whether altcoin ETFs receive expedited approval processes or face continued regulatory scrutiny. Industry experts predict a resolution by late 2025 as the SEC finalizes a comprehensive crypto ETF policy. It's also true the SEC is trying to make some sort of a roadmap for crypto ETFs to be fast-tracked. And that's why they're saying that we might get a multiple amount of ETFs being approved all at once. So there's a fair competition going on. So this year is all about, honestly, it's all about regulations and ETFs. This is the year that the crypto market is going to blast through and continuing to 2026 and beyond. Regulations come, utility happens. ETFs happen, liquidity happens. Rate cuts happen, cherry on top. Now, Dubai is what we're going to talk about next, and tokenization, and New York. So, here it is. Yesterday, we talked about tokenization as well. Today, essentially, we have some more news on tokenizations. Dubai has won the real estate tokenization play. The crypto markets are undergoing a hard reset right now. The speculative hype of 2021 is now a thing of the past. Meme coins and DeFi derivatives are no longer move markets like they used to. Investors are no longer chasing oxygen, you could pretty much say. They are looking for substance when it comes to the crypto space. They want tangible assets, real returns, and real infrastructure. This is precisely where real-world assets come into play. In a market that's tired of pumps and dumps and desperate for durability, tokenizing assets like real estate, luxury goods, and commodities offers a rare, tangible value, yield, and access. No white paper fictions with mostly fake advisors. No tokenomics that benefit insiders and early VCs. Just good old bricks, gold, and oil, but on chain. In the UAE in particular, among all the essentially real-world asset categories, real estate stands out as the most promising, and it's hard to see why. It's essentially not hard to see why. For the first time, owning a piece of prime Dubai real estate is no longer demands a massive upfront capital. Tokenization has opened the gates, allowing anyone from essentially a smartphone and a few $100s to buy fractional shares in a luxury villa in a downtown apartment or a high-yielding renting property in JVC. Essentially, the promise of is a democratic essentially investing or tokenization investing, an idea that has been circling the industry for years. It is no longer just a theoretical essentially part, but a framework that's in play. In May, Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority introduced the updated rules. The regulator created a new category of virtual assets, assets referenced as virtual assets, especially essentially designed to allow the compliant tokenization of real-world assets like real estate. This new framework enables the issuance and trading of tokenized real estate on regulated exchanges through regulated brokers. Issuers must obtain a Category 1 VRA license, meet capital requirements, undergo audits, and publish white papers and make proper disclosures. If the regulator's secure framework designed to support a new generation of global capital and is already delivering results, last month, for example, Dubai's Land Department, together with the VRA and leading developers, oversaw the tokenization and the sale of 2 apartments. The entire offering sold out within minutes. Dubai did an offering of tokenization for apartments. The entire land sold out within minutes on the tokenization. Buyers came from over 35 countries, and remarkably, 70% of them were first-time real estate investors in Dubai. This was not an institutional play. It was a global retail play. Arriving with crypto wallets in hand, ready to purchase property on-chain, tokenization made that possible. The benefits aren't limited to investors. Developers finally have an alternative to traditional funding channels, which is what I was referring to. Regarding massive corporations can, instead of borrowing money from the banks, they can just get money from the retail section by tokenizing everything. There's benefits and negatives to that as well. There's positives and negatives to that. Depends on essentially what the terms of the contracts are. If you're buying real estate like an apartment through tokenization, that's a positive. If you're funding essentially a commercial property, then that could be sort of a negative, depending on how you see it. Depends also on the terms again, like the Hilton Hotel scenario, that could be seen as a negative. But if you're buying an apartment, then that's a positive because you're doing it for tokenization, you're benefiting from that apartment. Enables them to access global capital markets without essentially relying on traditional methods or getting excess debts with banks or essentially navigating slow fundraising processes. Investors can now diversify across multiple properties rather than committing all their capital to a single deal, which means essentially construction companies can start, essentially buying up land, building multiple properties, putting all of them up for tokenization, and just funding them one by one. One of the most high-profile early attempts, essentially, at real estate tokenization, the attempted tokenization of the Plaza Hotel in New York, powered by the same blockchain platform, Harbor, never made it to the market despite the raising essentially $28 million in venture funding and generating significant buzz. The project was ultimately shelved due to a web of operational, legal, and stakeholder complicities. Now, with essentially Dubai's rental yields consistently outperforming those of most major global cities, the value proposition speaks for itself. These are early setbacks revealed as uncomfortable truths. While the vision was sound, the surrounding ecosystem, technological, legal, and financial simply wasn't not ready. The US attempted to regulate 21st century innovations with a legal framework built in the 1930s. This is why we need crypto regulations, and that we cannot rely on regulations that were essentially created before there was ever such thing as blockchain technology. Suppose you're a founder building a tokenization platform, a VC looking to back an infrastructure play, or a family office allocating towards alternative assets, or a builder looking for the next high impact vertical. If the UAE's real-world asset tokenization is not already on your radar, you're behind. The relays are built, the market is live, and while they used to say, Habibi, come to Dubai, now Dubai is coming to you, wherever you are, in the form of tokenized real estate assets. Now, moving on from tokenization to XRP. So we have a new perspective on XRP. It's from a man that isn't and hasn't been a fond of XRP. This particular man essentially has not liked cryptocurrencies and then slowly started liking Bitcoin. And over time, he saw Bitcoin as a viable asset that could do very well. And he was very pro-Bitcoin. From hating cryptocurrencies to pro-Bitcoin. Now, this guy has given a new perspective on XRP. And he is a very tremendous, essentially, analyst, very brilliant analyst, to be fairly honest, on the stock market. But here it is. Peter Bandit's XRP prediction suggests a strong upward trend. Veteran trader Peter Bandit predicts that XRP's price will continue to rise, based on recent technical analysis that indicates a strong breakout potential is on the way. This prediction by essentially Peter Bandit is notable for its shift from his prior skepticism on XRP. This man was not a fan of XRP at all. So for him to be coming out and saying these words, it means something. This prediction by Peter Bandit is notable for his shifts from his prior skepticism on XRP, impacting market sentiments and potential trading strategies. Peter Bandit has indicated that XRP's price is poised for significant rise. His analysis highlights a bullish technical step up, interpreting recent price consolidations as a persecutor for such the further upward momentum. Bandit, a seasoned analyst, has suggested that XRP's trajectory is, and these are his own exact words, of where essentially he thinks XRP is about to go. His words, and remember, this is a man that didn't like XRP, didn't believe in XRP whatsoever. So for him saying these words, it means something. And he's a brilliant man as an analyst, he's brilliant, but inside the stock market. But keeping that in mind, his words about XRP's next movements inside the market space are up, 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 following a strong price impulse. So he sees the XRP price going up, up, up. This assessment is essentially, it goes completely against his essentially previous announcements of XRP and market behavior and so on. XRP's breakout from key resistance levels has attracted attention. Investors are now encouraged by its stable performance above $2.60. Previously, a significant cap indicating a robust underlying trend. Peter Bandit's outlook modifies the market's expectation, previously pegged at lower potential prices. His updated view supports a bullish shift, highlighting XRP's recovery from a prior volatility. Market observers note that XRP's volume indicates strong support rather than profit taking, which is very key here. XRP shows strong support rather than profit taking. Analysts suggest that this current consolidation phase could buttress further gains consistent with Peter's analysis. Historically, XRP experiences volatility following breakouts. Bandit's forecast, if it materializes, could signal shifts in trading strategies, with investors potentially adjusting targets based on technical patterns and prior movement trends. The current structure is a classic example of trend, a strong impulse move, followed by tight sideways action near the highs. There is no sign of supply flooding in, and the price is staying strong above $2.35 and between $2.40, range that's essentially used to act as resistance. So, in an analysis that didn't like cryptocurrencies, suddenly started liking Bitcoin, hated XRP, now is coming out today and saying that XRP is heading up, up, up. So if you're holding XRP, congratulations to you. If you are somebody that's not holding XRP and you think it has no future, or if you are somebody that's holding XRP and you think it doesn't have a bright future and it's going to cap out at $5 and that's it, good luck to you. On that note, on Peter's essentially trajectory of up for XRP, we've come to an end on tonight's live. That was the last news on tonight's live. Obviously, before we do go, let's go inside the comment section first. And if anybody has any questions, go for it right now inside the comment section. I'm here to help. If anybody has any questions, go for it right now. Let's see what's happening inside the comment section before we do go. Hi, family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I wonder why, because it sits her pocket. Yeah, such as your accent. Thank you so much. I'm trying to swap ATH for HOT or XLM. I do not have BNB. How can I purchase BNB and make this transition happen? Binance. If you want to buy BNB, you can buy it through Binance or you can buy it through Trust Wallet. XRP moving up slowly. Hopefully, it will continue. Let's go, Alex. Hi, Miles. Sorry, I'm late. XLM hasn't really moved lately. Do you have a view when it will catch up? Paul, XLM has been moving tremendously well for itself, but it's going to move even faster when regulations come through. You made it. This is what counts. I've been researching XLM too. They're moving quietly. I believe it will be solid, not advice or just self-encouragement to keep it up. Yeah, I believe so 100%. I apologize for multiple grammatical errors in my messages. Why is the SEC taking so long to drop the appeal? They'll drop it in accordingly to time. The faster they do it, the faster they are getting the money. You know how much interest they are losing. Facts, but it's all to do with the timeline. Thanks, Miles. No problem, Stormy. Anytime. Up and away, though. Take care, Miles. And CMF, like, share, and leave a comment for support. Let's go, Ray. We have come to the endings of tonight's live. That was the last news regarding Peter Bandit saying his words on where XRP is headed to next, and it's up. So on tonight's live, on episode 332 of the CMF Live, we talked about Peter Bandit's new perspective on XRP. We also went through news regarding tokenization on the Dubai market space and New York market space. We talked about Grayscale and the SEC on tonight's live. We also went news regarding Jerome Powell might be on the side of resigning. We talked about Shanghai considering essentially lifting their ban on cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. We also went through news on tonight's live regarding the Democratic Party once again being an absolute loser. We also went through news on tonight's live regarding Trump backing essentially Trump's organization getting approval for the portfolio of crypto assets they're about to be creating. We also talked about tonight's live regarding the new crypto tax bill from Senator Cynthia Luminous. We went through news regarding Coinbase suing Oregon's governor because for acting like Gary Gensler. We also talked about BlackRock's IBIT essentially absolutely on fire, breaking records. We went through news on tonight's live regarding Tether discontinuing its USDT on 5 blockchains. And we went through news on tonight's live regarding the Fed's discussions on crypto policies enthusiasms are on edge. We also went through the US stock market down, but the crypto market up. So, those are all the news topics we went through on tonight's live. This was episode 332 of the CMF Live. Just to point out one thing for everybody that's watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards, where I essentially share the most recent news on cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much everything you need to know about going into this digital future ahead of ourselves. And also we do Q&As on this live as well, Monday to Friday, which means if you ever have any questions or even comments to make, put it down inside the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And a disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. If you liked this live and retweeted this live and put a comment outside the live on X, thank you so much. If you like this live and you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much as well. If you haven't, CMF members, liked or retweeted this live, drop a like, drop a comment, drop a retweet. And I'll be catching everybody on Monday, 10 p.m. once again for the next episode of the CMF Live. Everybody honestly have a great weekend. Let's go inside the comment section first. Obviously, before we do leave, thanks, Miles. Let's go Stormy. Up and away. Let's go Ray. How do you feel about Doge, Shiba, and Beam? I think they still have a future of themselves. Great show, Miles. Thanks for your support. Let's go Bull XRP. Thank you for your insights, Miles. Have a great weekend and see you Monday, XRP. Let's go Artistic. See you on Monday. And have a great weekend as well. Great job, Miles. On episode 332 is great. Let's go, Scott. Thanks, Miles. And good night, SP. Let's go. Good night. See you on Monday. Same timing as usual. Comment, post, repost, etc. Less positivity affect the algorithm. Let's go. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thanks, Miles, for your knowledge. For all of us, have a great weekend. Let's go, Freedom Fairbo. Good night, Miles, and have a great weekend as well, Orphan. I agree. Let's go, Scott. Let's go. Thank you, Miles. Susie, no problem. Let's go. Manny, thank you, Miles. Let's go, Manny. See you both on Monday, same time as usual as well. As I said previously, CMF members, I need your help, CMF members, to grow this family. So like, comment, retweet all the time so we can grow this family, because I have big plans for the CMF, but we need to grow our family for those plans to come into play. So like, comment, and retweet, CMF members. Always. I need your help to grow this family. Share the post. I love my family. Have an outstanding weekend, family. Let's go, Scott. Good night, Miles. Good night. Good night. Thanks, Lotus. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Have a great weekend. Glad you had some positive news. Let's go, Shelly. Thank you so much as well. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Yes, the positive news on me is that after I got my results back, I no longer have cancer, by the looks of it, which is brilliant. The first time I did the test, it said that I might have cancer, so I decided to do the test again, and it came up as negative, which means I don't have cancer, which is incredible news to be receiving today as well. On top of the market being absolutely ballistic. Miles, for world leader. Let's go, Scott. Good night, Miles. Christopher, good night, brother. See you Monday, same time as usual. Let's go, CMF. Shelly, let's go. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Miles, for the world leader. Let's go, Scott. Miles, take care of yourself too. Let's go, Scott. I definitely will. You take care of yourself as well, brother. I'll see everybody on Monday, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, I'll see you all on Monday, same timing as usual. Although I do still have to do an MRI scan a little bit later on. But, you know, I'm good so far. That's all that matters. OMG, didn't know. That's great. Let's go, Susie. I'll see everybody on Monday, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll see everybody on Monday for episode 333. Everybody have a great weekend. See you on episode 333 on Monday. 10 p.m. London time, as always. Like, comment, retweet. Let's go. God is great. I'm glad for your test results. Let's go, Scott. See you every Monday. Like, comment, retweet. Don't forget.